Yeah, it's 10 past, so I'll get started. Hi, my talk is how to cope with external entities. I'm Adrian Bateman. I work for Nomensa, that's a UX, user experience agency based in Bristol in the UK. On Drupal.org, I'm Polinia. So today I want to show how to use the external entities module, and particularly about how to use it to share content between Drupal websites. I've got rather a lot of slides to show in 15 minutes, so I will race through some of them. I just wanted to capture the whole process. So I'm sure most of you, as being in a publishing session, you know about COPE, the idea of creating content in one place and publishing in lots of other places. In the Drupal world, lots of solutions have been done around replication and perhaps the migrate or feeds modules, which are very good solutions. Particularly this morning, there's a good talk on Content Pool, a solution for big publishers, for editors creating content on a central website, and that's pushed onto their magazine satellite sites. But one issue for me with all those solutions is they create duplicates of the content. So if someone chose to edit that content on one of the satellites, what is the latest version? How do you merge revisions? How do you keep all the sites synchronized on the latest revision? So that's where I'm interested in the single point of truth, that there is only one central point where the content is stored. And that is where the external entities module comes in, which has been around for a few years. It's in Drupal 8, it's created in 2015, but still in alpha, still got quite a lot of bugs. So only last month, RP7, Ruff, can't remember his surname, started branch 2.x, and already it's as stable as 1.x and has got a lot of improvements, automatically fixes some of the bugs which are hard to solve in 1.x. One of the key differences is that each entity type you create truly is a different entity type rather than bundles of external entity. So the idea is that you can pull in data from a remote service database and treat it in the same way as other content entities within Drupal. So a simple example for today is how can I promote an article on my local website that's actually posted on another site, my remote website. I'm pulling in title, image, a bit of content, and actually that image isn't being pulled into my site, it's still a link to the image on the remote website, and the title here links me through to this page. So I've chosen this example because it does relate to a project I'm working on, but also because it does shows the various steps you need to go through and some of the issues I've found along the way using the module. So when I submitted this session for 45 minutes, I said the second half would be about how to create a central media library which could share its media with satellite sites, and editors on those sites could upload images to the central site. So I'm quite glad I didn't actually have to make this work. But it's definitely achievable. So the steps today will be to create our remote website service, just creating a view of articles, and then on our local website, creating the external entity type. I want to create an entity browser so an editor can look at all the articles that they can select from before placing it on their page. So that's these two steps, and I want the ability to theme the entity, although I don't really actually do that here. So this is our external entity type page. No, it's not. Sorry, this is the remote, our remote view. So there's plenty of ways we could provide a REST service. I've chosen views for simplicity. a lot of the manipulation of the data before passing it into our JSON response can be done just through the Views UI, like rewriting the title. And I'm just showing that there's two possible ways of dealing with this task, either providing separate fields for the image and body, title and so on, or providing a rendered entity, so you're passing the whole markup, which, if I go, no, I'll just point out first, yeah, I've created two REST export displays, one to return all the items and one for a single item. So for multiple, it's REST, read it, remote pages, and so for a single, it's just slash n and the node ID after it to get a single item. By default, and we definitely need it, we've got caching set so that the response, we're not, so if the content doesn't change, then we're still passing. We don't have to, well, the results are cached if the content hasn't changed. So here's a bit of our JSON response. So we have to, these days, have to specify that we want format JSON. One drawback of using views is that even for a single item, it puts the response within an array, which isn't really standard, I don't think. And as I was saying, within the Views UI, I can rewrite some of the output. So I've got my my title with a link with an absolute URL to the page. I've also done the same with the image here. And here's the remote entity markup, which I haven't tried to tidy up a bit at all. So there's quite a few classes in there which you wouldn't really want to pass along. And I'd point out here that the link on the title is a relative link. So if I did display this on my local website, it would be trying to go to node 19 on my local site when it should be remote.test/node 19. So yeah, if you did want to pass the whole markup, either you'd write a custom REST service, or probably use a path processor to change URLs to absolutes. So here's the first step of creating the external entity type. So like other entities in Drupal, you get your usual fields. You know, they're fieldable, and you can set the form and display. And so the first thing we need to do is to choose the storage client, and this is the bit that tells the module where the data is coming from. The module only comes with really one option at the moment, a REST service, which may or may not work with the service that you're using. The only other option here is a wiki, which is just an example way of how to do it with Wikipedia. So we're setting our REST point here, and JSON. We don't actually need to set down any pager settings because we're using the view that I've set up. And I've set the entity as read-only because I haven't implemented any way of making changes to the remote entities. Yeah, I'm just using a view. So further down that entity type page, I need to put the format JSON in the parameters, and checkbox here is telling the module that we need to remove the array in the response. So this is a patch that I posted to the issue queue a few days ago because it just didn't seem necessary to have a completely new storage client just for that small change. So then we have to set up our fields, our mapping. So we'll need to create normal Drupal fields for the body and the image and so on. Note the ID and title are standard, and we have to set the mappings from the response fields like NID title and body and so on, to the fields in Drupal. And what's nice in branch 2 is that we can choose what text format they're going to come in, because that information isn't in the response. We can also set caching, and also we can choose whether the entity needs a theme hook. And so onto the form display and the display. Here I'm choosing which fields to render. So I'm just going for the title with a link wrapper, image and body. And so from those steps, we get a list builder and individual entity pages. So they have a similar format to what you'd expect with Node or other content entities. And yeah, this will be rendered with my my template if I've created one in the theme. So I should point out, if we haven't set up caching on the previous step, every time you load this page, it will do a request to the remote service. And similarly here, for as many items as there are here, you'd be calling the service. So any self-respecting content entity needs to work with views, but really external entities don't without a bit of a workaround. And that's because Views still expects to do its queries with SQL on the local database. There's an issue that's been open for quite a while on that. Doesn't seem to be any progress recently on that. There was a module which has been around since Drupal 7, but never advanced very far, I don't think, called EFQ Views. So there is quite a simple workaround using Search API, so that's to create an index and store it in the database. So once I've run the index, I have a table in my database like this. And that means I can now go and create a view on this base table. And what I'm here to do is to create an entity browser display. So I need to add this bulk select form field, as well as the fields I want to display in the browser, in the entity browser. So I will only very briefly go through these next few slides where I'm creating my entity browser, using my view. Then I can add my my external cards field to my node type, and choose the entity browser widget with my new entity browser external card. And of course, I want to render my cards as rendered entities. So once we've got that far, we can add a card to a node. So it comes up with the entity browser. And what I found is, whenever you load this, it will, if your entities aren't cached, it will be making a request to the service for every one of these items. So varnish is a good idea, rather than to reduce the impact on your remote site. And finally, we get to display our external card on our page. And over here, I'm just showing, it's using our new theme hook external card and our templates in the theme with a tiny bit of styling. And so finally, I'm just showing that I'm not actually using very many modules. Entity browser external APIs, search API, and 3 patches which are feature requests I put to the external entities module over the last few days. And that is the end. So hopefully we've got a little bit of time for questions. Thank you. Yes.
At what point are the local entities made, created? Does it have a cron, or does it?
There isn't a cron. It's when there's a request for them. So if
So the first time you want to refer to an external entity, the entities are not available locally, right?
no, you would have to know the ID, the unique ID. So you go to the URL external card /123, whatever it is, or you use the entity browser, which will pull them all for you. Yeah, or the list builder equally will display them all. Yeah, so the list builder. Yes?
Can you do like entity queries using external entities? Like for example, get all entities with a field of value A.
I don't think so. Well, if they're in the database, then you can do your queries on the search API table, but not on the external service, and you'd have to create a REST service which could handle that sort of query, I think.
So it does actually download the entity then?
Well, the index for them, yes. And if you want to search on particular fields, I think you'd have to set those. You'd have to make those indexable in your search API.
My next question was going to be, if you do actually have a local copy, how does the caching work? Like for example, if you have cache tags, let's say one of the nodes changes, does that affect all the dynamic listings that include that node?
That is a good point, and it is what I did skip over on the last page. So for example, this entity, my card, if I make a change to that on the remote site, this page won't refresh. It won't be invalidated. So although this page does have the external card tag on it, there isn't currently a way to invalidate it. So I'm going to raise an issue on the queue for that soon. It could be, it might have to be something done in cron. For the application I'm working on myself, I'm thinking about having my remote site being able to invalidate tags on this site through Varnish. Okay, thanks very much.